We are live tonight in the freezing temperatures outside the crime scene there at Fort Wayne. The search for this little girl has come to an end. Her severed head, hands, and feet were found in the trusted family friend's freezer. Straight out to Drew Blair, WANE TV. Drew, I want to thank you and Sheriff Freeze for being with us. Drew, they still have not determined whether this child was molested before she was murdered. And I'm just telling you right now, she was. All right?
That is a matter of the coroner's office, Nancy. They're doing everything they can to put all of these, unfortunately, literal pieces together. This child was dismembered into several small pieces and distributed, and we've been doing our best to learn what we can from the Sheriff's Department. They can tell us what they can without jeopardizing the prosecuting of this case. And as of right now, we know that a head, feet, and hands of a human being, a child, were found in the freezer of this mobile home right behind us. We don't know if the other pieces of the body were actually found. They will not be discussing at this point what evidence has been discovered.
Joining me right now at the crime scene there in Fort Wayne is a very special guest, Sheriff Ken Freeze. He's the with the Allen County Sheriffs. This is his first on-camera national interview. Sheriff, I want to thank you for being with us. Your people, your men and women, worked round the clock, around the clock, to bust this case. And while everybody, was suspicious of this guy, he was the last one with the girl, it's a long, long road from just being suspicious to proving a case and not messing up the case along the way, not making it to where the evidence doesn't come in at trial. Your people cracked this case. You did it, Sheriff.
Yes, they did.
You did it.
Yeah, they did an excellent job. They did an excellent job.
Sheriff, how do you...
give them the credit.
Well, because that's just the way that you are, giving everybody else the credit. Sheriff, how do you go home on Christmas Eve night to your family thinking about this little girl? How do you do it? How do you go back home after what you've been through today? How do you go back home to your family and try to act normal?
That is the difficult part about being a policeman, because we do deal with stuff like that, and it was not easy going home Christmas Eve because we knew there was a 9-year-old girl out there someplace that we couldn't find. And you're exactly right, Nancy. Some of the story that we heard from the beginning with him led us to believe he was the key to this case, that we needed to get to him, and he was the one who was going to have the answers we were looking for. And for our officers and everybody involved in it, it is a very difficult case to deal with. Right now, everybody's still busy with the tasks at hand, but eventually, when they sit down and think about it, they're going to have a lot of debriefing, and luckily, we go home to our families and talk to them about it.
Everyone, taking your call, Sheriff Ken Freeze, the Allen County elected sheriff. His people have solved the case. It's not the ending that we wanted, but we have the ending. This little girl is dead. On a holiday weekend where most of us are gathering around our Christmas tree and our nativity scene, this little girl was dead. From what we know, bludgeoned to death. I've got in my hand an affidavit for probable cause that this sheriff took out. It was signed by a judge. You've got the deputy district attorneys on it. But the police, the sheriffs, are the ones that built this case. Sheriff, I'm looking at this, and in this guy finally breaks down and gives a confession. And it must take you don't have to answer this, but it must take every bit of strength in your body not to just throw him on the ground and force him to tell you the truth. Because for the longest time, he stuck to that story. I could smell it from there to here. His story stunk. But if you don't handle him a certain way, if you don't get that confession out of him a certain way, then it's all out at trial and you don't have a case. When did you first become suspicious, Sheriff? When did you first become suspicious that he was lying?
Oh, Nancy, I think you hit the nail on the head when you initially talked about him going out to get a cigar at 6 o'clock in the morning. When I heard that story, I thought, what person goes out at 6 o'clock in the morning, buys a cigar, smokes it, and goes back to bed? And that was the first indicator that I had that this guy was not going to be telling the truth, and he was going to be the significant person in this case. And I think our detectives determined that very quickly, that the focus needed to remain on him. He was the one that saw her last. He's the one that had the most contact with her, and there were some small inconsistencies that led us to lead with him. And honestly, you're right, we had to be very careful. We're humans just like everybody else, but we also know we have a case in the end of this that we have to get prosecuted, and we have to make sure that it's done properly.
Hey, Sheriff, did you have to get a warrant to search his place, or did he allow you? Did he give you consent to search his place?
Yeah, he gave consent initially. We searched it, a very cursory search, but then we got search warrants for not only his location, but 2 others, so we could do a much more thorough search. And that's what actually led to the evidence. After he confessed to the officers and told us where he may find some of the body parts, we got search warrants for other locations.
And a lot of people are calling in, Sheriff Doe, saying, well, why didn't they look in the freezer immediately? Of course, you know, that's all on TV. All right, when you're looking for a child, you don't race into somebody's refrigerator and open the freezer. And when they started putting 2 and 2 together, everybody, this sheriff went and got a warrant. So nobody can say when this thing goes to trial, and believe you me, this is going to trial. This is going to be a death penalty case. I know the lawyers are saying they don't know yet, but he went and he got a warrant and went back in with me, the sheriff. It was his men and his women that go in the home where he is standing right now to take this child's body parts, including her head, her hands, her feet, out of this guy's freezer. The search for this 9-year-old little girl has come to an end.